The Strangers Chapter 1 just plain sucks, and I'm not the only one thinking this. It's got 19% on the tomato meter. Oh, now it's 18%. I stand corrected. What does this movie have to do with the other Strangers? Nothing. It's a soft reboot, Chapter 1 in a 3-part series. Oh God, I don't even want to watch the second one. I'll tell you why. This adds nothing new to the table. I said in my straight out of the theater reaction that if you've never seen a horror movie before, if you don't know anything about how horror movies work, then this is softball entry-level horror, where yes, it will scare you because they're menacing masks that terrorize these people while they're at an Airbnb. But they fall for every tired cliche in the mythos of horror movies that, oh, it's dark outside. Let's go out there. Oh, there's a weird sound out there. There's somebody standing out there. Let's go out and investigate. Let's not lock the door. Let's not call the police. It's that moronic. And the movie tries to set itself up as kind of like, well, they're just innocent. They don't know any better. But the boyfriend calls her out right away, saying, no, we shouldn't trust these people. Richard Brake shows up for some reason. I guess he needed a paycheck. This is the only scene that he's in. You thought that maybe because you saw him that he would have some other part in the movie, but they try to say that, oh, the people of this town are creepy. It's trying to set the tone and the mood for the film, James. But the problem is that goes on for the better part of 60 minutes before we actually get to the part that we all know about the Strangers, that 3 people show up and try to, well, antagonize and torture them to death. And it's only an hour and 30 minutes, so you've got like maybe 30 minutes of screen time for the Strangers, and it's kind of like, get to it. Like, this adds nothing. It adds nothing to the mythos of the Strangers universe, if you could, if there is such a thing. If there's any redeeming qualities to this, Renny Harlin, his directing is atrocious. He should have stayed retired. It's embarrassing to see Renny Harlin out trying to do promotional material for this, trying to pretend that I guess he is hyped for it, but this is the guy who did like Cliffhanger and stuff like that. And it's like he went away for a reason, because he was lacking talent. Madeline Pesh and the boyfriend, Froy Gutierrez. Like Froy, I think he's the best part of this. Madeline does a good job at having a scared face, but it's like the jump scares don't work, because it's kind of like too many times we see, oh, there's a shadow there in the background. The person moves, the shadow's gone. They do that multiple times, where it gets to the point where you're just like rolling your eyes at it, going, you're really doing that again? You're doing that again? Okay. That's what I mean by softball horror, is that we know these tropes. So if you are any kind of an aficionado of horror, then this is just going to be, you are going to use this as your punching bag of horror movies. Like, if you thought this year that Madame Web was one of the worst movies of the year, basically, Strangers Chapter 1 is saying like, hold my beer. It's like, hey, I got something else worse for you. And as I said, this Froy guy, he caught my attentions with what he was trying to do. And this movie missed some opportunities here that could have made it interesting for me to say, okay, I want to see a Chapter 2 and a Chapter 3, but it's a swing and a miss, because they just do the same tired things, that it doesn't add anything. And I'm sorry, but the Strangers in this one are not as scary as in the original. Because remember, in the original, they seen them originally out like playing on the swing set and stuff, the Liv Tyler version in 2008, and those jump scares worked in that movie because they did a good job of selling it and setting it up. Halfway through the film, you'd be like, please, I missed the Liv Tyler version. And then you got to ask yourself, why are you remaking something that was already pretty good to begin with, right? And then what makes me really angry is that because Renny Harlin and the producers are out promoting this, saying that we've got a good enough story for 3 of these, it opens it up for you to say, okay, maybe they've got a fresh take on this franchise. Maybe I should give this a chance. And when you go out and see it, when you go out and see this, you'll be like, I have no interest in watching Chapter 2 whatsoever. I said it in my straight out of the theater reaction. This should be something that's on streaming services. This should be on Netflix or on Shudder, because it's not of the caliber of filmmaking that should be seen on the big screen. It's not. It has nothing new to say in the realm of horror. It has nothing new to add to The Strangers. It made me want to watch the original and the Christina Hendricks version, where it was kind of like, okay, well, they're not in a house anymore, they're in a trailer park. That's the kind of thing that, okay, at least change the setting. But no, you're back in a cabin. It's not really a house, James, it's a cabin. It's like, dude, what are you smoking over there that makes you think that you had a really good idea, a fresh take on this? Because you did not have a fresh take on this. And it makes me angry for multiple reasons. Because you sold us this bill of goods that, hey, we've got this really good idea. And it's not a good idea. This is tired trope-ism at its... makes me frustrated. And here's the other thing that makes me frustrated about this, is that this budget apparently only was like around 8.5, maybe 20 million for all 3 of them. Like, they shot all 3 of them back to back, guys. So we are going to get Chapter 2 if we want it or not. And because of that lower budget, people like horror fans like myself will go out and see it and confuse the studio with kind of like, well, it made some money back at the box office, despite everybody saying that it was not very good. 19%. Oi, that's not good. I'm serious, guys. It's kind of like, I have a phone. There's people after us. Let me, no, I'm not going to call 911. I'll wait until I'm really deep in it before I call 911. It's bizarre. And you can tell that there was a longer cut of this movie. The editing in the opening is so jarring, where you'll see them like drive down the road and go past this diner, but then in the next shot they're pulling up into the diner, but you just saw them drive past. So you feel like there must have been more in the story that they shot, where they came around and came back to that diner. But instead, the editing is just kind of like, they drive past it, now they're pulling in. It's that kind of jarring editing. So, like, filmmaking wise, I got to knock it down a huge point. Things like that happening, where there's like a car that they almost run into, and then in the next shot there's nothing on the road behind them, when you should see the car driving away from them. It's that kind of inconsistency in the filmmaking here that make me say that, okay, you guys know how hard I was on Night Swim. I was saying that this was one of the worst horror movies I've seen in years, but it's almost like it made Night Swim look like Shakespeare. You guys know how hard I was on The First Omen. It looks like a masterpiece compared to The Strangers, Chapter 1. Let's pull up my score sheet and see where I start to land on this, because it's not going to be pleasant here, guys. Acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points each. Cinematography and score are out of 1 point. So acting, because of Froy and Madeline, I'll say I'll give acting a full point. I think that's generous, right? Full point. Directing, things were competently framed. Story, The Stranger's premise is interesting, but when you see, okay, there's a car that we can get into, a truck that just rammed into us with the keys still in the ignition, we can get into that truck and drive away now. but we're not going to because we need to run through the forest with our hands up in the air screaming. It's just like, no. Cinematography, it's dark. The score is missing everything but the violin strings playing in the background, beep, 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 like that. So I can't add much more to that. I just want to echo that sentiment that, okay, things seem to be framed well there, but for the last portion of this movie, it's pretty dark. It's hard to see a lot of stuff. Because I think they're trying to use natural lighting here for some of the forest chasing stuff, but it doesn't, it just, if you try to watch this at home, you got to watch it in a dark room. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see anything on the screen. Like, it's that dark, guys. Unfortunately, I was in the theater where it is dark. So it's kind of like The Strangers Chapter 1 is a huge swing and a miss. I don't care about Chapter 2. I'm not going to go see Chapter 2. The Strangers Chapter 1 is one of the worst movie experiences of this year. 19% by the critics and everybody else. What were people saying there about The Strangers? Once we're able to see Harlin's new trilogy as a whole, Chapter 1 might feel more essential to the 4.5-hour experience. No, absolutely not. See, now this is the kind of criticism where you're like, you're gonna wait, you're actually gonna sit there and endure other two just to see if you think that the first one makes sense? That kind of argument never, ever made sense to me. It's like, well, wait till we see it as a whole kind of thing. It's like, we do that for TV shows because there is going to be 8 more. But we shouldn't do that for movies. This should be self-contained and good enough that makes you go, okay, I'm kind of curious to see where this goes next. Matt Donato, somebody we trust here on the channel. Harlin's film thinks it's improving on the original by filling in blanks that are blank for a reason, scrubbing away what Strangers fans hold dear about Bertino's remarkably revolting mirror of humanity. And this goes on to echo a lot of things that's going on with some horror movies these days. And I want to champion. This will totally help improve the stories. The thing is that they try to tell these stories all within the echo chamber of one night of event. So what happens is that they try to introduce these characters that we're supposed to care about. But how? How do you introduce those characters? Well, we say that they're going to get married, or they're pregnant, or something like that. That's how we're supposed to relate to them. They've got to change that paradigm of letting us learn them over a certain amount of time so that we know that their bond is strong, right? They've got to change that story dynamic up, and that's something that they could do to help improve these movies. But this, of course, doesn't do that because this is the laziest writing that I've seen since, probably, yeah, madame. Well, there you go. All right, let's wrap up my score sheet here, and then I'll wrap this review up. So we're sitting at a 3 out of 10. Watchability factor, guys. If you're a horror fan, check it out. If you are just curious to see, like if you are a fan of The Strangers and you want to see them, but once you do, you'll be like, why did I watch that? This doesn't do anything. This is by far, yes, I think this is the lowest movie. And you guys know how hard I was on Night Swim and Lisa Frankenstein, but I think The Strangers Chapter 1 is 3.5 out of 10, the worst movie of the year. And I don't know if it's going to be unseated. 3.5 out of 10 for The Strangers Chapter 1. I'm going to talk some spoilers here after I wrap things up, but let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments below. Did it get you angry too? This is pure tripe by the Hollywood studios. This is garbage, guys. Don't waste your time or effort going out to see this. Wait for it to be on TV, because you can show this on normal network TV. That's how softball this movie is. It's not gory, it's not bloody, it's not even scary. The jump scares, as I said, it's just, they're there behind her in one shot, she moves, they're gone. It's Ooh. No. The Strangers. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below and we'll talk about it. Remember when they... All right, you remember when they said that they've had this great idea for 3 chapters? They had a part in here that could have sold it to me. That the boyfriend, multiple times, acts suspicious. Like, he's kind of like, oh, I recognize what these people are trying to do to us. I know what they're going to do. And if they played the card where he's also a serial killer of some kind, and it's kind of like the strangers meet up with another serial killer, and she's just caught up in between them, that could have worked. That could have made it interesting enough. Like, the big reveal at the end could have been like, because they tease us a couple times throughout it, where it's like, he says to one of them, do you think this is the first time that I've killed somebody? That's opening the door. Like, if that was the ending of the first chapter, then then he says, and he pulls the trigger and kills one of them and says, no, it's not. You guys are in for a treat. That would have tempted me to see chapter 2. That would have made me go, okay, I'm on board. But instead, it's typical run-of-the-mill. They kill him, and then they stab her right between the legs. Ooh. And then the tease is that she wakes up, they leave, and then the tease is that she wakes up in the hospital. Ooh, that's the end. That's the end. To be continued. Get that. Like, I was so angry. Like, she Madeline, she was trying. She put some of her own money in this, apparently. She executive produced this? It's just, what did you think that you were, like, we're trying to bring it to a new audience. What? But you just retold the same story. You didn't add anything. You didn't try to stretch it out a little bit. Guys, it's a terrible, it's atrocious. I think I've said everything that I can. But I'm going to publish a few shorts about it. I'm gonna continue to tear this new one throughout the weekend. So if you are unfortunate to see it, let me know if you thought it was good enough, or like maybe. Oof.